Chapter 7, Recovering from Trauma-Based Codependency. Sorry, got a bit of a cold at the moment. This is the author's personal strongest 4F, and I guess that's the reason why this book is recommended with fawn types. It seems to suggest later in the chapter that it was people who created the term fawn. Apologising to everything as default and addicted to apologising. Flashbacks. A current event can have the vaguest resemblance and it sets something off. Protesting abuse leads to more frightening parental retaliations. So the child deletes no from their vocabulary. Talking back can result in harsher punishments, extinguishing the flight response. At such a young age, it's not often remembered. You also learn that flee is dangerous. I'll teach you to run away from me. Running away from home can be even more dangerous. The flight urge can instead turn into hyperactivity, running in circles, workaholism, spendaholism, physioholism, sex and love addiction. Or freeze, the lost child, slipping into dissociation. So the codependent child gives up all of these, instead learning to be seen as helpful. Gifted child can come into this category. The child stops having a preference for anything that might anger the parents. Any hints of danger can trigger an abdication of needs. Many codependents respond to threat with friendliness. Extreme neglect can create this too. You get positive attention from parents. It's a way to get attention from parents that isn't negative. Codependents seek safety and acceptance through listening and eliciting, inviting the other to talk rather than risk exposing their thoughts. So it's safer to listen than to talk, safer to agree than to challenge, safer to offer care than ask for help, safer to encourage the other than express yourself, safer to have choices. Have choices to the other than express preferences. I'm not sure what it was I wrote down there. Leave choices. There we go, that makes more sense. Safer to leave choices to the other than express preferences. And getting your needs met vicariously through helping others. The book then goes into the subtypes of fawn, freeze, the scapegoat. These types both include self-denial. The fawn and freeze both have high levels of self-denial and are the most passive, experience the most punishment or rejection for expressing themselves as toddlers. The fight types take them captive. Fawn freeze may not recognise the abuse or blame themselves. The book mentioned DV, I'm presuming that's domestic violence cycle. That love bomb at point of leaving point, where they dip into that shame response, becoming a hook for the fawn freeze. So the love bombing becomes a hook for the fawn freeze, as it's more than they received when they were growing up. When I was in a relationship with someone who did that, then I learned to wait until that dip had come back to baseline before trusting what was happening. as being everything's okay. And I remember he started lengthening out the love bombing, going, look, I'm changing. You're not responding. Why are you not responding to me? And yeah, I was just like, yeah, I don't trust you yet, because you're in that dip. Learned helplessness, punished extra hard for complaining. Another type is the fawn flight, which is the super nurse, providing for family without taking care of their own needs, can become OCD cleanaholics and can project their perfectionism on others. They can also turn themselves into honorary advisors, overburdening others with their advice. And it's important for these types to learn that caring is not always about fixing, allowing others to be imperfect. The fawn fight, it describes as the smother mother. Now, the above bit about caring is not always fixing, allowing others to be imperfect, also applies to these who can be aggressive in their attempts to help others. The phrase love you to death can feel like it applies to these people. There's too much helping. They can flash back into coercive caretaking and are most susceptible to love addiction. The author writes about his intention to be more forthcoming was frightening him into a flashback, creating dissociation and forgetting everything, an amygdala hijack. So he found getting the other person talking, gave him the space to be able to go to come back to presence, to be able to start talking himself. That's something that I recognise. I've just written down monologue enabler, I'm guessing, and then I go off into a dive track about my own stories. Right. Facing the fear of self-disclosure, intuiting a detailed picture of the trauma that created this, remembering on an emotional level how we felt as children, and that as adults we are in a more powerful situation. We can remind ourselves that we are in an adult body with an adult status and more resources. And then talks about grieving through codependence. And the later stage of recovery goes on to describing the sort of work that I do with people in my practice, somatically connecting to a memory in order to sit with it and heal it. Practicing being more present in role-play situations, staying present with the fear, and acting assertively anyway. With enough practice, this can heal the feel the fear and do it anyway, developmental arrest, which in turn allows more space for deconstructing self-harmful reactions and flashbacks. Learning to stay inside our own minds and own bodies. Fawn survivors are almost psychic in their ability to read parents. Recovery includes being mindful of our automatic mirroring behaviours, helping us decrease the habit of agreeing with anyone. The book talks about verbal matching being one layer of this, inauthentic emotional mirroring being another layer. For example, acting amused at destructive sarcasm, acting loving when being punished, acting forgiving when someone is repetitively hurt. Some notes of my own. In advanced recovery, we don't automatically shift our mood to match someone else's emotional state. The book talks about not pretending you're always feeling the same as someone else. And for me, it's more than that. I'm not pretending, I am feeling what another person is feeling. So when it talks about you don't have to in the book, I don't feel like it's something I've chosen. It just feels like the right thing to be doing at the time. So that's something that I'm working on. Disapproval is okay with me. This was a suggestion to practice a phrase, a mantra. Practice it until it's true. Making everyone like me is not possible. Surrounding yourself with those whose constructive feedback is welcomed and not angry about the opinions of those who are not up my hearth. I feel like that's a life goal for me. Disapproval can still trigger a flashback, but it becomes less of an issue. And occasionally, it's possible to experience delight at someone's disapproval. I have resonances with this. I quite like it when I receive disapproval from some people, because it's a sign I'm heading in the right direction.